this stuff than us.
Mhm.
It trips everybody up,
Yeah. Just when
including
I
us.
think I have something too, then they like change the whole platform or how it works. And you're
I know.
like I've just got TikTok under my belt and they're like, oh, we're just gonna just cancel TikTok today. All right. Throwing my phone while I'm at it. Let's see, do we have anybody? I guess we just went live, so there's probably not anybody over here yet. All right.
Ready?
Yeah, let's get started.
Welcome everyone to VO Booth Besties. We're here to help working voice actors get your most important questions answered by industry pros who know. Each week we have a new topic and a guest who is an expert on that topic. If you missed a live episode, you can always catch the recording later on our website, boothbesties.com, or anywhere you find your favorite podcasts, or right here on YouTube. And be sure to join us in the VO Booth Besties Facebook group as well, because there's lots of good stuff going on there too. Without further ado, let's meet our guests. Over to you, AB.
Well, I should have asked you, Baaqir, how to say your last name because I just realized I have to say your last name now. Baaqir Yusuf?
Yusuf, yeah, you got it right.
Yusuf. And Tristan Gardner, did I say that right?
You did, yep. All the best
Are,
names take a second.
are the co-founders of Suora Studios. Suora. Now I'm like, I'm going to second. How do we say founders? That's how I am today. They are the co-founders of Suora Studios. First, Baaqir's passion for entrepreneurship budded. I am a voice actor and I cannot read today. Ooh, okay, here we go. Baaqir's passion for entrepreneurship budded from watching other young leaders make impactful strides in the world. If someone else can do it, why can't we? With a background from UNC Keenan Flagler, he's been fortunate to have been surrounded by incredible people from early on. Along with directing and producing video projects, Baaqir oversees strategic initiatives, business development, partnerships, marketing, and operations for Suora. So, a lot. Tristan is an adrenaline junkie with a strong focus on quality relationships and taking care of his friends, coworkers, and valued clients. His connection with storytelling was sparked by millennial YouTube creators showing their experiences around the world through innovative videography and visual effects. Tristan's primary roles involve business development, product development, advancing our studio's capabilities through R&D and implementation, and leading productions. So, all the things as well. You guys are kind of a tag team between the two of you, right?
Very much.
So give us the background on Suora. You were originally named something else and you transitioned to that, but the two of you have been together as a team since college, right?
Yeah, we met out of a passion for wanting to try and create, a business model that generated us revenue, like we were learning about in school, and we did that through a passion that we connected on, which was video and storytelling, and then it ended up being many other things within that sphere. But yeah, Bakker and I from the start have been super aligned on what it takes to develop a business and generate cash flow. So we've been doing that together for 7 years.
Wow, 7 years. That's a long time. So why the change? Why the name change?
Yeah, so originally, we started out as Tried Studios with three other co-founders and business partners, and Tried still exists today. So Tristan and I, um, you know, we had a vision for what we wanted to do that was a little bit different than what, the broader team was doing for many years. Um, and so we essentially wanted to start our own thing. And so we left Triad and started Sora essentially with that core direction and focus. And a lot of what we do now is specifically in digital learning. So using video and video technology to make learning better. And that's really our core focus. That can be education and marketing, and for, many cases it is, but a lot of it now is more focused on corporate development, and making kind of leaders better and turning people into leaders in the workplace. So that's a lot more of what we do now. And so name change, yes, but a little bit more nuance to that. And the name itself, I guess maybe you'll ask this, so I'll address it now, is what it means. And it's a Finnish word. Tristan studied abroad in Finland, out of a couple of other countries 1 year, or for they call them immersion electives at Keenan Flagler. They're short-term programs where you immerse yourself in a different country for 2 to 3 weeks. And he visited a university called Alto University. We really like that word. We figured it would be a potential good name for our startup. Finnish words in general have been historically trendy as of recent. For example, Peloton is a Finnish word for fearless. Um, and so we kind of explored the language a little bit and found the word Suora, and it means to direct. And kind of fit really nicely. It also has some nice intonations with the sound of it. We really like the idea of flow in the workplace and in business as a form of like producing really good work. And the name itself kind of lends itself, at least in our minds, to the idea of flow. So that's why, we really like the brand and really believe in it and are very happy that we're able to kind of engineer it from the beginning to really mean something and really align with our mission and vision.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. I worked with the two of you at Triad Studios, and so I didn't even realize that you had broken off and started your whole, like your own thing, because I only knew your two names, and then it was your two names. So you are, to me, you were both. But that's awesome that you guys said, we have this different vision. And I was looking through your website at some of your digital learning examples and samples that you have up, and it's pretty good. It's pretty obvious, is what I was trying to say. It's pretty obvious that you're taking a much different approach to digital learning than is traditional with the really boring modules, and that there's a lot more engagement with it, which as voice actors, both JT and I do a lot of online learning voiceover. We've done, I know between the two of us, we've done like Samsung and the Home Depot and Microsoft. JT does most of Microsoft. I've been doing a lot of Amazon's digital learning, and whew, some of it is really boring. And that is, we love when somebody makes it engaging. So much more
Well,
interesting.
we appreciate that. That means a lot to us. It's what we try to do every
So,
day.
so how do you approach that to come up with a way to make it more engaging? Do you guys write the things, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, at the beginning of the pre-production process, not unlike in any other kind of content that we engage in with our clients, it can be as collaborative as there's a need for. We can completely take it over, pulling in some of the trusted learning designers that have a ton of experience from the get-go. We can, work a little bit later on in that, scripting and design process with more of a video focus. We can kind of jump in wherever. But making content engaging, if that's your only concern, is easy. We take all the experience that we've had in many, many, many different sets of content at the professional level. Take a lot of inspiration from how Hollywood does and uses different softwares to get really, really clean results. And we translate that. But that's not all we have to consider. People have budgets, and budgets are important. And making something insanely amazing isn't always realistic given the budget. So we have to, figure out how we can utilize process, cut down on wasted time and costs, and also innovate our, technical facilities to be able to achieve, to be able to achieve engaging learning that's better, but still isn't, just ballooning cost.
Right. It's a much more holistic approach to consider the client's budget, and not just be like, oh, this is how much it's going to be, take it or leave it. Right.
Right. Yeah. And there's a little bit of customer education involved in there too, because, we all, and really no one's to blame, but we all just kind of get used to whatever is accepted in the market. And right now, like you said, there's a lot of acceptance of, producing content that portrays information, but not necessarily in a way that we might want to watch for an extended period of time.
Right. So talk about that big jump to leaving Triad and starting your own thing. What did that feel like, and how did you make that decision to do that?
It wasn't easy. You work just piggybacking exactly off what Tristan just said. It's easy to get comfortable in the current situation you're in, regardless of how satisfied you are, given the circumstances that you're currently existing in. So, it was over a year of kind of thinking and thought around this, especially between us. Um, and we knew just we needed to make a change. It was difficult at the time, but as soon as we kind of hit the ground running with Sora, it was just so much fun because we knew that every single thing that we did had a direct impact and we had a direct, control or insight over why we were doing something a certain way. The speed at which we could move forward on ideas, thoughts, processes, implementations just accelerated tremendously. And as we kind of started to form the new structure and foothold for Suora and reestablish kind of our process for how we wanted to execute on the projects we knew, we've led over the years, it just all became so amazing. The first 6 months were definitely crazy. You're taking, what we did with 5 people to 2 people. Fortunately, we had an amazing hire come on board full time with us. His name is Sullivan Rousey, and he was a big, big help, especially for kind of allowing Tristan and I to focus on the business and the strategy and the operations and the process while not getting too sucked into project work, so we could really establish that. But couple of other things, just mentally, it was difficult to go through this such a big shift. We worked with 2 different sets of business coaches, one that was more focused on kind of business management and one that was more focused on culture. So we really worked hard in the beginning to establish a really positive culture, and it's paid off so much for us over this past kind of year and what's 3 months now, which is crazy to think. Um, and yeah, it was it was all the things, it was all the emotions. It was hard, it was sad, it was difficult, it was fun, it was so many things. But that's kind of the way we view entrepreneurship in a way too. It's always an oscillating set of ups and downs. You just try to mitigate the downs, right? And enjoy the ups while they're happening. And yeah, it was a lot of emotions, but Tristan, please feel free to jump in.
No, I mean that's a great description. I'll just add in, we had, built out a brand new space down in Apex near us and near where we are now. And we had 4 years left on our commercial lease. And so selling the business to an investor that was in one of our founders networks was really crucial in giving us our start. So all founders kind of exited in that way. And Baaqir and I are just still doing what we always have. So we're really happy, especially with great team members and being next to such a behemoth in the TV and network documentary filmmaking world, Trailblazer Studios. We get to meet a lot of talented artists like yourselves and talk with them about their ideas, whether it's color, or post, or audio. So it's great to meet people and talk like we're doing today.
So talk to us a little bit about that collaboration with Trailblazer, because I was looking at this kind of what you have set up, and it seems like you get the best of both worlds a little bit here. So talk to us about what that looks like.
Yeah, it's been an incredible opportunity for us, especially in the early stages of Suora. Jeff Lancer, the president at Trailblazer, was someone that Tristan and I met very early on in our entrepreneurial journey through one of our early mentors, Jim Kitchen. Jim Kitchen gave us our first office in Franklin Street. And he had introduced us to Jeff. One of the classes, I was a TA for Jim, teaching assistant, in one of his intro to business entrepreneurship classes, and Tristan came by to one class to speak in on our kind of entrepreneurial experiences over the first couple of years. Jeff happened to be one of the other speakers, and Jim whispered in both of our ears to go shake Jeff's hand and let him know what we're doing. It turned into forming a relationship with Jeff over the years, and when we knew we were going to be making the change, we had serendipitously caught up with Jeff, and Jeff was like, "Hey, like we have all this space. If you guys need some space, we'd love for you to move in." And then we were like, "Yeah, give us like a couple of months, and we think we can make it happen." And we did. We moved in February of last year, right when we were kind of hitting the ground running with Suora. And it was such an energizing force and factor to be sharing that space with them. To go from early on, not really knowing much about the film industry and just being enamored by the offices and the stage and the editing suites and this and that, to being like living in it basically was just a crazy feeling. And then now, yeah, I think as we've built trust over working together on certain projects, running production, we're now managing all of the operations for the stage, which has been most recently renamed from the Trailblazer Studio soundstage to the Suora soundstage at Trailblazer Studio. So that's been really cool. And we're just continuing to partner more and more. We will hopefully continue to take on more production work to help out Trailblazer where we can. But yeah, continuing to collaborate in ways that make us both more efficient has been just so amazing and validating because they have been in the industry for 20 to 25 years making awesome stuff. So
Yeah.
only gratitude for the opportunity to share the space, but also, be able to learn from them as well.
So for voice actors, one of the things that we talk a lot about is networking and how valuable networking is. And it sounds like that's really paid off for you because that networking is what got you kind of where you are in I mean, your hard work and dedication and talent too, but getting the opportunity to use that hard work and dedication and talent really comes through networking and not being afraid to go shake the hand of the guy that seems scary and big. So,
Right.
how important would you say networking is, other than that one experience, to your business model?
It's the most important factor of the entire business.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is like there is no sugarcoating that at all. Like we will live and die by the value of networking.
Mhm.
All the cliches that your net worth is your network. Like could not reign more true from our experiences. You know, Tristan and I definitely have a core philosophy that entrepreneurship is fundamentally sales, and sales fundamentally is thoughtful and strategic networking. It's not, you know, it's not banging on, it is to a degree banging on people's doors, but, the way to really grow a business is to understand, where your customers are, where the value can be added to your network, and to showcase your value and your differentiators in a way that is valuable for them. And it networking, we love to draw the connections in the trees, um, branches of lines to projects that end up happening out of nowhere. But it's really, all about the efforts we've put forth in our networking process over the years that finally kind of turn the corner and bring us value as well.
And Baaqir's been saying a beautiful statement the past year that your network is your net. I mean, that's what he just said. Yeah, it's about increasing your surface area of luck. So you meeting new people here, there, you're just expanding that area. And luck comes to people that are putting themselves in the place to get it. So yeah, like you're saying, the hard work, dedication, and talent, it like goes into networking, and then networking is a huge part of that. And networking, I said to somebody recently, I think a student, like when people are in school, your networking is often in the vein of, I'm going to remember what this recruiter said, or I remember what this person said and ask them about it. But it's in the vein of like getting, a job and you haven't had as much experience yet. So it's actually, I think it becomes easier to network as you gain experience in something and you have something to talk about based on your passion. And then more importantly, you have, some good questions to ask the person that you're meeting with.
And then I'm assuming you take that networking further and use that in your marketing. So
Definitely.
how do you find your clients? What type of
Through
marketing?
having these relationships and meeting new people. And if it's not a project focused conversation, it's going to be a conversation that's focused on what we're doing, most likely. And if we learn something new, we can bring that into our marketing. We can develop new capabilities from that over time. But on the marketing side specifically, I think you're directly asking about. It's all about putting your brand out there in many various ways, not just one. We've tried strategies. We've always wanted to find what's that one strategy that works, and we always seem to come back to it's executing consistently strategies across different media. So you got writing long blogs, writing short blogs, making video content, putting that on LinkedIn, also using it in an in-person workshop at a local organization. We can go down the list. I'm sure we'll let Baaqir hop in as well.
No, that's beautifully put. And, to address your question of like, how do we get clients? It's exactly like Tristan's saying. It's a little bit of everything, um, done at a very, very, high level that's representative of the work that we do on client engagements, to showcase the work that we are doing, to just, make sure that people know about us and what we're doing. We've evolved our approach from literally walking around as college students on Franklin Street with blazers on after class with business cards that we just printed out, walking into every business and shaking people's hands, trying to get the word out about us, to all the things that Tristan just talked about. So and we're always, looking as business owners for the best answer to that question, right? Because if we knew, then I think, business would be easy. We knew there was a replicable strategy to get new clients, and it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be too stressed. But that's the fun of entrepreneurship, right? It's always figuring out how to kind of scale what works. But like you said, it all always comes back to just the strategic networking, and you know showcasing your value is just a very powerful resource to people that do, when eventually will need your services, they know that they'll want to reach out to you first.
Thank you. That is something that we tell our VO community all the time, because it doesn't matter what kind of entrepreneurial job you're doing. If you're working for yourself and you're freelancing, you have got to be out there, and you've got to make those connections and shake hands and be top of mind when they do need you. And people need to see your best work up front. I know for us, one of the things that we spend a lot of time on is auditions, and like a lot of time on auditions. And most of those don't come through as a paid project. It's a little tiring to be kind of working for free all the time. How much work do you put on the back end of your pitch before you even go to a client to propose your project?
Well, I mean, what you're bringing up is really important, because you do have to be strategic with your time. If it's a pitch that we're trying to kind of incentivize a purchase decision in the moment, regardless of if they need it or not, it needs to be clear and directed on how it's going to help what they're currently doing, advance what they're currently doing, without just increasing one-to-one costs. So I think that definitely guides the objective. But how much work you do, I think, there's a lot of ways to portray your value, services, capabilities, and give light to what the final product is going to look like, sound like, without necessarily detailing it out to the level you would right before contract signing, or maybe even more so right thereafter, as you go through the pre-production process. So I can't speak on as much, what the strategies might be for auditions in the VO world, but I definitely hear you on the side of, we've requested auditions many times from people, but we always try to look through their site and all the samples they already have, so we don't waste their time, because we're in the same spot with clients and prospects as well.
I know you asked too at the tail of that, like how much do you spend on your pitches and time, and how much effort do you put? We put a lot of effort into making our pitches and proposals extremely detailed and hyper specific to the project. The big thing that we've learned over the years is that a banging video we made for X client that we really love, if it doesn't necessarily apply to the specific ask or need of the client that we're talking to, it's not that relevant. It's cool, but it doesn't solve their problem most directly. So we spend a
Yeah.
lot of time, and we have a great template and set of case studies over the years that we've built out to kind of start us off in a project proposal that kind of details our company background, or makeup of our team, our process and capabilities. But then we always kind of segment and specify and tailor the case studies that we'll show to a specific client. And that's really kind of when that work comes in on the pitch side. And we just submitted a proposal to an RFP, and it was 40 pages long. Like we want people to know that we care a lot about like the potential partnership. And once our foot's in the door, after that, the partnership is established, and it's very easy after that. But in that very, very initial stage of getting to know each other, kind of getting people on board with our process and how we like to do things. We like to be as transparent and detailed as possible, and that definitely requires a decent amount of effort, prior to any contract or funds coming our way.
Right.
Yeah, we love finding the commonalities in the different creative fields and how we actually have way more in common than we realize. I mean, just as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's like I wouldn't send an animation demo to a corporate narration client, like it just they don't correlate. But it sounds like you are spending a ton of time on the back end, but then once you establish that relationship, that you can keep going for a long time. So JT, I think we have some questions in the chat. Do you want to ask a couple of those questions?
Yeah, actually, Dan's question ties right in. As you're introducing these project ideas, how easy is it for the idea for that specific client to come to you? Is it just something that pops in there when you see the client and their need?
Actually, yes. First, yeah. I mean, we love this kind of stuff, so yes, it does naturally. Um, but to give something more helpful of an answer, I would say maybe the systems in our heads that allow us to have those ideas quickly are based on a foundation of hearing what the client needs and wants and immediately figuring out what idea first. Not every idea needs to be insane and crazy. You need to have a foundation of something that's specific and productive and practical, and then sprinkle in the crazier ideas. So for those, if you take what the client needs and wants, and you try to view it kind of like a magic trick. Like, okay, I'm going to show it like this, or I'm going to approach it like this, and then I'm going to approach it just this slightly different way to make it something they haven't seen before. And you can draw on your past projects and experiences. It doesn't have to be the newest type of idea to you, but it will be to them.
Yeah, good point. Annie mentioned that she checked out your website and really liked that you had a variety of approaches for the different clients. And she asked if you provide products exclusively in English, or are you ever asked for multilingual voiceover talent?
Yeah, it's actually something we're working on right now with Department of UNC, where we're going to need a Spanish version of the video for accessibility. So a big thing in learning in higher education and digital learning is accessibility. So there's many cases where we need to adapt, you know, English speaking content to other languages. So that's definitely something that we do.
All right, I'm gonna actually toss things back over to AB for a quick sponsorship break.
All right, we are sponsored by Studio Bricks, which you may see my fancy booth here. Studio Bricks is a company that creates sound booths that can be picked up and moved piece by piece, almost like Legos. And I'm actually pretty excited about the fact that it is so mobile because I'm getting ready to move here in the next few months, probably. And I'm like, crap, what do I do with my booth? Oh, I can just take it apart and move it with me. But it gives me the ability to have a really low noise floor no matter where I am, to not have to worry about my neighbors barking dogs or leaf blowers or lawnmowers. And so we are really big fans of Studio Bricks. They are a big investment, but an investment that I feel like has really paid off in my business. So that's our little pitch for Studio Bricks. Check them out at studiobricks.com, and we can jump right back into the questions.
Okay, so you've put your proposal together. The client is thrilled. You sign your contracts, and so what's the next step in the production process?
Yeah, so we onboard the client, and that consists of a lot of things. So we always have a discovery meeting just to kick off the project to really understand and be able to develop a creative brief for the project. That creative brief consists of a lot of things. What the project is, what the background is of the client, what our why our expertise is helpful for this project and solving this problem. Project framework and roadmap. How are we going to execute pre-production and all the steps that correspond with pre-production, whether it's shot listing, storyboarding, scripting, location scouting, you go down the list, casting. when our shoot dates are going to be, identifying who's going to be part of the shoot, what crew we're going to need to put together, what gear do we need, um, how far out is the shoot going to be? Is it going to be a global production? Is it going to be something we need to run remotely and find crew for in a different country? And then the post production and kind of wrapping it all up in terms of the editing, color, finish, sound. So, everything doesn't happen right after we sign the contract, right? But being able to lay out and educate the client on the overall process early on is the first step. Because you can really contextualize how that end product is going to be achieved through, because it's such a collaborative effort, every single project, no matter the scope or size. You kind of need that client buy-in at the very beginning, because there are things that you're going to need to lean into them on at various parts of the process, regardless of who's owning that part of the process. So kind of developing that project framework as soon as possible and aligning our clients and our partners on how exactly each step of the process is going to be conducted is the absolute first thing that we do every time.
Okay, and you mentioned, if you have to go to another country, finding crew, if it's something that you're doing locally, do you have a staff of crew and producers on hand, or is that subcontracted?
Yeah, it's largely some subcontracted. We always want to have a hand in managing the shoot, just like we do the rest of the process. So at the very least, we're always going to have a sort of producer, director, no matter where it is in the world, whether we're flying there or remotely tapping in. But the film world, how it works, especially with production, but with any part, is production days are stressful and you need really experienced, talented people. I mean, voiceover artists understand that there's all these little pieces of technicalities that go into the process of getting clean audio, and what equipment you're using, and even just the process that it takes to give a client different options, how you deliver them the files. And so you take that, expand it to any role on set, and you really increase the quality of your service if you kind of get the budgets that allow you to submit to that traditional model of production. You get people who have been doing audio for 20 years, and you lessen stress on set. It's a better client experience and you get better quality.
And we've evolved a long way to come to this kind of business model and how we run things. Tristan and I learned every single thing about production and post-production over 5 years through YouTube University and trial and error. And we've, been DPs and camera ops. We've both done audio on set. We've filled in as set designers. We've been, producers, literally every role, gaffers, so we felt, kind of you know, whatever between surface level knowledge is and the 20 years of experiences, like whatever's right in between, we've probably achieved that in a lot of different ways between production and post-production. So we're able to kind of like manage this process now in the way that we do because we have that experience and because we understand what it takes and what the difference is between that surface level knowledge and the really kind of like people that have been embedded and specialized in that field. Um, and that wouldn't, I think, be possible unless we had kind of ate it for a few years and just kind of did it all.
Yeah, and that makes that selection process a whole lot better. Not easier, but not just
Smoother.
knowing what you need, but what you don't want in
Exactly.
your team.
Exactly.
It sounds like it really gives you the ability to, when you're communicating and networking and talking with others about your business, you can talk at all levels of the business, which gives you a bit of an edge as well versus someone who's like, I think I'll start a business and I'm going to go take out a loan for $20 million and hire all these people to do it for me. You've been there from the ground up. It's one of the reasons that we wanted to interview you guys, is to kind of see another side of the industry that we don't get to see. I certainly have never filmed anything really, other than like for TikTok, right? Nothing important, right? So let's go behind the scenes a little bit with you guys. And I know you do have some, I think you have a behind the scenes section on your website, right? Am I correct? Like we've got some information. And if you guys aren't following them on LinkedIn, please do. They have a lot of really interesting stuff. Like, I think it was yesterday they posted like all the apps that they use in their business. Was that yesterday or the day before? It's like all the
Earlier this
different
week, yeah.
apps, and it was a I was like, oh, I might need to check some of those out, right? Like it was a really great comprehensive list, but it also showcases just how many irons are in the fire, so to speak. Like you have a lot of different things going on. So let's talk about um working with talent, just because that's our side of the industry, right? Like you do a lot of spokesperson or interview style work where there's like physical people on camera, but you do hire some voice actors and voice talent. I know I worked with you when you were at Triad, but I've seen your videos and you have voice talent, some really great ones, by the way. So talk about what that process is like. Where do you source your talent? Do you keep a roster, use pay to plays?
We definitely keep a roster. Back in the day, we used to interview lots of voiceover artists. I think we were lucky enough to find some people that we had even met with in person many times, and definitely people like yourself. And we would find even more value later on in the process that if the person we already knew really well wasn't the right fit for the project, we'd ask them for who they thought would be. And that's a way to keep the relationship alive on both ends. And also, limit time waste, because usually the people that they're referring are going to be somebody they would put their name behind. And you really can get a lot of great talent out there, but there's inconsistencies, even just with simple things like recording, which I'm sure you guys, preach a lot. But in terms of process, I think what's most helpful for us is and was from the start, somebody who's flexible will already give us, multiple different options of things, even if not asked, and just really gives us a good client experience.
Yeah, and I think the only thing to add there too is what's really helped us streamline our approach. And as we, have to manage so many different parts of the process and the business and all these different things, is finding ways to get from point A to point B being finding the right voiceover artist for the project more quickly. And we found that working with agencies has been actually really helpful for us because they take away the step of really kind of identifying so many different voices that could
Right.
be potential fits for the project and just give us that short list. And that short list is so helpful because even if the right person isn't within that short list, we can at least pick a couple that are within the same vicinity of what we're going for, and they kind of just help us. And yeah, it might cost us a little bit more money, but it does provide us a lot of value in kind of taking out that and streamlining that first step of searching for the right person.
Yeah, and it just reinforces, we've been preaching to our community for the last year plus that the consistency is important, being client focused and being there at the drop of a hat is important. Microsoft, because they're 3 hours away from us, like 3 hours ahead, behind, they're 3 hours behind us. They may send me an email at 8 o'clock at night, and they know that when they come in the next morning, it's going to be in their inbox. And providing that kind of service just makes such a difference on both ends.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And it's no different than how we would want our clients and partners to perceive the value that we bring and as, an
Yep.
agent partner. So it's exactly what you're saying.
And always make sure you have reliable internet. Sorry, you guys, my internet totally cut out. I don't know where we went with that or how long it took for me to get back, but where well, did we talk
Let's jump in
about
with rate negotiations.
okay. How do you negotiate rates with your clients? Do you have set prices or do you just do it on a case by case basis? And has that process grown as your business has grown?
Yeah, it's definitely grown. Bach, I'll give like high level and you jump in, but
Mhm.
maybe even start with how we started. But where we've ended up, where we are continually ending up now, is assigning a consistent value to the three main parts of any process that we bring. It takes into account overall average time for certain tasks and capabilities for sure, but time is secondary to the value that we provide by ensuring that they're going to get the highest level results possible, no matter what they're asking for or how they think it should be done. And so we have those 3 different rates, and we, no matter what a client needs in terms of budget, we'll be flexible with them. It's always important to be flexible, and to understand that if you really want this project, maybe you got to work with them a little bit, especially for first time relationships. But you need to have a minimum too. The flexibility shouldn't be unbound, because then you're just, if you give one client a price that's way lower than you do for the same client later on in the year, or to a different client, then the integrity of your pricing is not as authentic. So one of the biggest things in developing the correct pricing structure is to also learn when and how respectfully to say no.
I love that. That's so powerful.
Yeah, pricing has been just an ever evolving challenge for us. And we've done a lot of research on how other people do things over the years, and we found what works well for us. It's come from the early days and the medium to early to not so early days of essentially quoting an estimated number of hours multiplied by an hourly rate for the various parts of the process. And we did that for many years, and it worked. And we slowly raised our dollar per hour as we got better at what we did, and it reflected the parts of the market that we were serving. But you quickly realize that there's a limit to what you can do with that. You're not pricing based on the value of what you provide. And once you reach that limit of hours, there's only a certain amount of hours in a day and a week. I mean, that's the end of your growth. I mean, you can only raise your rate, your dollar per hour, so much before it just doesn't make any more sense. Um, and I think another thing that's important that relates to pricing is project management, because if you're all hourly based pricing, you can only allocate so many hours per day across so many people. And then also kind of maybe with like when scope shifts, that totally changes the way you manage projects, because you'll need to shift everything about that. And then it affects other projects and how you're working on those. Um, One thing that we do now differently is we price by people and by days. Um, that gives us a lot more flexibility, and in many cases allows us to capture value on some of the things we never charged for before, whether it's like managing the account or communicating with the client, or, doing X activity outside of the project, which is necessary for the project, but wasn't directly priced for the project because it wouldn't make a lot of sense to the client. But, it's allowed us to be more flexible as a business, to price by day, and to attribute more value to certain more specialized areas of the process that are much more complex. For example, like VFX or color, than let's say other parts of the process. Um, Maybe. So just constantly trying to figure out what works for you, I think is critical. While definitely being anchored in what has historically worked in the industry is also important, because we've all, from the early days too, in many cases tried to contest why certain things were done a certain way and did them differently, and then found that there's a reason why certain things are done a certain way.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you really have to know your value, right? You have to know. And we just went to a voiceover conference in Atlanta. Me and Jen Greenfield, our other trio and our bestie. And one of the things that was talked about is that you've got to figure out what is your bottom line? Like, what are you willing to work for? And if somebody comes to you for that, no is a full sentence. Like, you don't have to give explanations. You don't have to worry about it. And I know that for me, when I lower that bottom line because I want to help someone, or I can see that they're a younger business, they're just getting started. Sometimes when I lower that bottom line, I find myself resenting the time that I spend on that because it's taking me from other projects. And you never want to be in a position where you're resenting a client. We always want to feel like we can add value and they can add value back. And so we have to make sure we always know our value. So how do you handle rate negotiations with talent? Do you just tell them this is what the cost is, or do they say back and forth and back and forth?
Yeah, so we tell them what our quote is. Then they always say, this is either they say this looks good. That usually happens when we have an established relationship with the client and it's not the first project.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll come back and be like, okay, why is it this price, or this is our budget? Then we basically just talk again, and if we can be flexible in certain areas, and that doesn't mean just discount it to what their budget is. We'd never do that anymore because our price is reflective of our price and what things cost. So we will find creative and strategic ways to achieve the project goals by lowering the price to meet their budget requirements by essentially allowing for collaborative flexibility in certain areas of the project. For example, we work with a marketing agency in the area. And over the years, they have been educated on our process, specifically the pre-production process. And they can now take on different parts of the pre-production process that we typically had done in the past and charge for. So that allows us to kind of be more flexible with our costs and our budget. Because if they're taking on some more of the work that we would typically do, we'll lower the budget and the cost. And that's one area. Another major area too is we always say and kind of root our clients and how many days are we going to be filming? Filming is the multiplier of cost in production and full service production. And if we can condense our overall filming down from 3 days to 2 days or 2 days to 1 day, that drastically affects cost, but it changes the outcome of what we're going to get. And we just like to have those conversations and just be transparent about how we can meet the core needs of the project while fitting within your budget. It's super rare, and this does happen, where we see a lot of long-term value in the partnership, and we might discount and do a project for a budget that they have that we know that doesn't fit our cost criteria, but there's a lot of value, and we view that as a networking opportunity if that's the case.
Now, do you establish from the beginning, like, do they understand that future projects are going to be in our normal price range? Because we found in our end of the industry that if you discount that first project, that's what they're going to expect every time. And you're never going to get them back up to where everybody else is.
Yeah, and your conversations and materials that you've been sending them before you even get to the point of pricing should already start helping you make them feel confident. And if they don't, and they have for others, then you're just testing out a relationship that probably won't be good for you on the next project anyways. But saying no to money is really, really difficult. It always will be. And so, it's not never though that we do this, like Baaqir mentioned. And what we realized really plainly is that if you are going to discount it, for a chance to work with them, you need to communicate it directly that, hey, this is a discount, and like why we're giving the discount. It might be, we understand that we want to test out our working relationship for the first time. We don't, our price is what it is, but we really want to work with you. And we'll do that for this time. But just to remind you, the next project is this price. And so you have to do all you can to make sure that they know that the next time. So it's not a sin to do, but if you do it, be selective, and don't just, don't make them feel bad, and also don't let it go unsaid.
I love that. So we had a question in the chat. At what point in your production process, when you're adding voiceover, does it come into play?
So it happens at two separate occasions. One at the beginning, because it's part of the quote. And it's like, do we need a voiceover for this project? And that's always decided at the front. And then it happens again right as production is finished and we are beginning post-production. So that's when we start sourcing talent for VO and identifying who we're going to want. It happens at that point specifically because we can kind of always, we want to be able to pair VO with a string out assembly of the clips so that we can kind of test the pacing and the feel of different voices with different tracks of the video. But that's specifically why it happens at that point of the process.
I love that. Makes sense. It's harder when you don't know I love when they send me the video too, when I'm doing a voiceover and they send me the completed video, because then I can get a feel for what music are they using and what's the pacing and the tone. So that is really helpful, I think, for voice actors as well. Okay, so how important do you feel? We're going to just shift the conversation here a little bit. How important do you feel social media is to your networking outside of LinkedIn? I know you're on LinkedIn, but other platforms.
It's important in the way that what we were referencing much earlier, where you really need to be doing all strategies because something can come from anywhere. If you take Instagram, for example, for our really directed business model now and learning, are we going to get a client from Instagram at a higher percentage than other platforms for digital learning? I mean, I would guess probably not, but I don't really care because if you're not on a major platform where everybody today shares ideas and consumes media, that's just a loss. It doesn't take that time if you take that much time or stress once you get the process going and treat it like a project.
Yeah, and I think it's important in the sense of it acting as kind of a living, breathing portfolio of your work outside of your website. It kind of allows you to build an audience and have conversations with people in an active place. Um, that's not just physical space and your website again. Um, whether your following is 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, or a million people, as long as you're continuing to have conversations, those conversations will build new ones. And I think viewing it as a portfolio and a place to have conversations, and it's not, it's easy to get, I think, trapped in the idea of needing to do everything all the time. And that's extremely paralyzing. So, what we've done is we picked two. We're just on LinkedIn and Instagram, and that's it. But we want those to be beautiful representations of what we do, as well as be a place for where we can really share our thought leadership and our experience and our expertise that we've been building over the years so that other people, like the app blog, the app toolkit, can look at our stuff and be like, yeah, this helped me. Like this was useful. And, then the next time they think about video experts or someone in their conversations, ask them if they know anyone, who's top of mind. And then using social media as a vehicle for that methodology as just another avenue of strategic networking and not as a kind of pay per ad click strategy media, and that definitely is a strategy. It's just not one that we've realized works for us in our industry that's so relationship based. Find the right product that you can sell, consumer product that you can sell, then absolutely social media is going to be your ticket to success. But for this type of work, it's kind of what we just talked about.
That
Do you
makes a lot
tailor
of
your
sense.
content to fit the platform, or is it just the same, like you're just putting the same thing out on both? Like is LinkedIn more business focused and Instagram is like the pretty stuff?
It can be, either can have either, but yes, it is important to do what you're saying, and we would probably do even more of that. Throw in TikTok, find some way to represent our brand in the right way that TikTok, has style for. And we probably will do that. We have talked about adding in that channel at some point, but yes, I mean, you have to think about what the platform is being used for, and tailor your content, your messaging, the layout. I posted even behind the scenes on LinkedIn with kind of multiple pictures in one, and another one like that. Look great on LinkedIn, posted on Instagram, and kind of wish I had a different photo that wasn't a collage, so it looked better in our grid. So that's as complicated as it needs to get as you're starting out as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
love
and like
that.
certain things will play better than others on either platform. Like we're not necessarily posting all of our blogs on Instagram, but they're all going on LinkedIn. And we're not necessarily posting our like best travel photos that definitely fit within our brand on LinkedIn, but that might be something we share on Instagram. So
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, when it comes to social media, we like to talk about it like juggling. You said right now you started probably with LinkedIn, and then it's like, oh, now we're doing Instagram. And if you throw in add in a third ball. You have to really be comfortable with the first two before you add in that next one. All right, last question from the chat. When you have a job that requires a voice actor, are you in charge of the casting, or do you leave it up to the client, or is it a hybrid approach?
We're in charge of the casting because we're in charge of directing and handholding the client to get the outcome that they originally told us they wanted. But and with not without nuance and picking up on the situation, the type of client you're working with, we always like to bring them collaboratively in, with a big asterisk on how we know they like to work and how much time they want to be involved in. It can be a really good way to get them excited, keep them excited throughout the whole process. Also, in the creative world, it's since things take so much time overall. Clients are left in the dark a lot with any type of creative project, and then that like builds consciously or unconsciously mistrust. And so even if you're not asking them for their opinion or collaboration in a certain task, it's always great to give updates. If you're worried about them maybe giving too many revisions, if they're having revisions and you can't support that at this point in the process, maybe tailor your email to just say, hey, we wanted just to update you, knowing that if they really have a problem, they're going to tell you. And it will be good to know at that point. Versus other clients who'd be like, hey, we're already going to put it on the calendar that we're meeting to go through casting auditions with you, because it's going to save everybody time later, because we already know we like to collaborate together, and they understand that requests and things aren't free, and they don't just not affect the scope.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. So do you have any tips for talent to help working with you? Like from your side, what do you wish talent knew to make your job easier? Specifically referring to voice talent.
I'll say knowing other people has been really helpful as well, because it keeps the relationship alive with them. I imagine it's helpful for them because of that reason. If you're not the right voice for a project, being able to talk to somebody like us for who is a great way to keep your foot in the door. Providing multiple different types of takes early on, even in casting. I know we're talking about how it takes a lot to cast, and especially when the project doesn't come. But if you can figure out how to make your process not take so much longer one-to-one, but also give different representations of your voice, that's helpful. Because a lot of times we really, really want to use somebody, and because we know they can do what the client wants, but then they give really good auditions, but it's not exactly what we asked for the client. And in the back of my head, I know like, dang, they're not going to choose X person because it's not exactly. So if you get different options, it allows us to kind of vouch for you more in the case where the client has a really strong say.
Yeah, and I think those two major things can be boiled down to one, facilitating the most seamless experience for us and other producers. I think a lot of things potentially go into that, but like holistically, that's the fundamental idea is, how can this just be as seamless as possible? That definitely includes what Tristan's talking about with having very directed understandings of the project and how takes will be, especially auditions, will be perceived by, our team and potentially the client as well. Obviously, producers probably can have a greater level of finesse and understanding and vision of how a potential voice can be re-strategized for a certain project, but maybe the client won't. So being able to communicate that, if that's the case, in a way that allows the producers to still kind of make it work if it can work. And then the second major thing is being that resource. That's something that we really, really work hard to do too for our brand and our business. If we're not the best fit for something, we don't want the relationship to stop there. We will want to be that resource for that client, for that person, regardless of if we ever work with them or not. Because it's just all about being valuable, I think, to the people in your network, regardless of if it's a direct need that you're servicing for them or you're just connecting them with the right people. So really being a connector, I think, pays off in the long run too.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add in too, real quick, try to do things slightly differently that increase that client experience. Like I know it's very common to get on, voice direct or offer different strategies there, but maybe you get a cheap camera, hook that up into your computer, and you're doing the voice directed sessions with video. I mean, plenty of people do that, but I mean, by far, maybe 98% has been not with video. And that's just like some quick little example, but it serves the point of making them remember the experience they had with you. Also, you have to do all the little things like Alicia, sound bricks with the studio booth. Like it's very obvious your sound sounds amazing. We work with local DP Kale, and he on a Zoom call before, on the first call that we heard project details, had beautiful lighting, his cinema camera, and it's just like boom. It's obvious that this person lives and breathes this, and I trust that I don't have to worry about the technicalities.
Mm-hmm. But their internet's not going to go out halfway through.
That's just unavoidable. We don't know how to deal with that either.
Yeah, right. Internet. All right. Well, you guys, this has been, in fact, someone said in the chat, this has been one of the most helpful live streams for her that she's seen so far. So thank you. It is
Awesome.
It's really nice to get that peek behind the glass at kind of just what the process looks like for you and for your business, but yet we share a lot of commonalities as entrepreneurs in the things that we're like sending invoices and doing, great negotiations. These are all things marketing that we do as well. And so we really appreciate your time to share your experience with us. We've made it to an hour. In fact, we're over, which is crazy. So we would love to just ask you one just for fun question each, if you're willing. What is your dream vacation?
You want me to go? I'm really dying to go on my dream vacation soon here. And my dream vacation is where I get major culture shock. I don't understand the street signs. People are out at different hours of the day, and I get to see how people transport themselves, how they communicate, and how they eat. And when I'm in a place where all three of those things are a bit different, that's my favorite. And then activity wise, I like adrenaline, as you said in my intro. So if there's something I can do where I can go fast or go on a big hike and experience that new place in an adrenaline impacting way, that's my favorite.
I definitely went on my dream vacation last year, and I wish I could do that every year.
Where'd you go?
Me and my best friends from college went to Amsterdam and Mykonos, Greece. And I love the beach. Uh, I love, good food, hanging out with my friends, of course. And we did some really fun things. Amsterdam was more of like a city experience and had that like culture shock aspect to it a little bit. Just to really just, I think a big part of, my dream vacation too, and the fact that it wouldn't be repeated is that the newness of a place is very, very exciting for me. Um, I'm 25 and I think I've been to 25, maybe 24 countries so far. So, I hope to continue to be able to travel at that pace because, traveling really is important, I think, to keeping your mind open and understanding people, which only makes you better at everything else you do in life. So, but yeah, that was a very long-winded answer to I love the beach. And as long as you transport me to a tropical location, that's what I care about most.
I love that. What you said there about like travel expanding your, I can't repeat it. You said it too beautifully. I'm like, we could just clip that and it'd be like a commercial for a travel company. I mean, it made me want to go to countries. I have a passport and I've never used it. I just
You
want to
gotta
get out of the
go.
country, but I have a whole house full of kids still, so it's kind of hard, but we're going to make it happen. All right. So, JT, you want to wrap us up?
All right. So a huge thank you to everybody who joined us live today. If you are listening to our podcast, feel free to join us live on YouTube every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, be sure to connect with each of us on LinkedIn. Jen Greenfield is not here. She's spending time with family today, but connect with her as well. Did you miss a live episode? You can always catch the recording later on our website, boothbesties.com, or anywhere that you find your favorite podcast. We would love it if you would hop on any platform and leave us a review, because those reviews help us to reach more listeners who are looking for great voiceover content. And don't forget to please like and subscribe. And you can join us next week when we're talking to Amy Eckley, who is a marketing guru about how to really niche down into your marketing efforts. So thank you for being here and have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
guys.
Thank you so much for having us. This was so much fun. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate
Very
it.
cool.
We'll just end
Thank you, guys.
YouTube. Yeah, seriously, thank you guys so much for being willing to do that. That was awesome. And we didn't say, or maybe you said it while I was in, I forgot and
Limbo.
left I have my internet hardwired, and for some reason my computer was on Wi-Fi. And I think it's because my kids were out here when I was on like out of town. I never use Wi-Fi out here. I'm always hardwired. Anyway, you said I got cut off at you have a roster. Did you say whether you wanted people to submit? Should we say, please don't? I'm worried people will flood you with submissions. I mean, I think we only had about 12 people listening live, or 15. We had 15 people listening live today. So not a ton, but
They can always submit. Maybe if you give our information over, you just include a couple words that speak to the fact that, we don't necessarily need to hop on a call right then and there. We can get a lot of valuable information just from the words in their email and their samples. So we don't want to limit, their connection with us at all. But maybe if they don't expect to hop on a 30-minute call right then and there, it's happened a bunch of times. But yeah, we just want to get a little bit of understanding of who they are and their sample work, and we record that.
perfect.
I mean,
Okay.
normally we don't expect to even hear back from people.
Yeah.
We generally don't get apply unless they're at least remotely interested in adding us to a roster somewhere.
And it'll
So
be like, thanks, we gotcha. I can't imagine asking somebody to hop on it. I think that's an approach that's being taught currently, because they're like, oh, you'll get FaceTime with them. I'm like, so I can be annoying? No, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys ever need if there's a voice you can't find, we have a network of 1,500 voice actors. We'll find it for you
Wow.
in a heartbeat. So feel free to
I'd
reach
much
out.
rather come to you guys than what is it? It's CESD, the New York agency
That's
is,
my that's my
Yeah.
agency is CESD. You don't want to go there. You just come to
No.
us.
Yeah,
All
like the
voi-
people there's oftentimes like a quarter, a third of people that I'm like, they're not even in a booth or something, and then there's also some absolute gems too. But yeah, I mean, they're not in a noisy environment, but it's clear there's background noise.
Yeah. And there's we'll only send you people who are quality. We have quite a few in our network who are beginners, and I would never recommend beginners. Some beginners are great. To be fair, some beginners are like, like I met a guy at this conference we were at this week who was like, he bought all the equipment, he bought like a studio, and he did all the training, and he's like 6 months in, he's like, I am ready to go. And he sounds good. So every now and then. Anyway.
There you go. Well, we want to work together first.
But there's no agency fee involved with us either. So
yeah, no agency fee. We'll just help you out.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having us on and having such fantastic questions. Really, that was just very well done.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah.
We'll get it posted, and we'll send you a link if you want to share it. And we'll share it all over our social media as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely share.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you both.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Have you heard from NJ today?
Yeah, she was in the chat. She said to stay on and she'll pop in. She didn't want to pop in while we were still live. So she probably wants us to send me the Zoom link. All right, let me get the Zoom link and send to her.
Yeah, when you disappeared, I was like, okay, on my feet.
I know. I felt so bad. So sorry.
No, you're fine.
I don't like how embarrassing. These are guys I work with, and my internet goes out. Like, oh, I was worried it booted you all off though, because I started the meeting.
No,
so I was terrified, and it didn't close the YouTube out either, which is good. But we're still live.
Really?
Yeah. Why are we still live?
Oh.
Can you undo the live? I undid the live.